What's up, Bears fans? We got some roster news here on a Sunday on the Bears off day at training camp. Going to dive into it here in just a second. My name is Harrison Graham. Welcome into Chicago Bears Now. Hit that subscribe button if you want breaking news updates just like this one, regardless if we're at the studio or at our homes. Okay, Demetric Felton is the newest Chicago Bear. The free agent running back has signed. According to the Bears themselves, they tweeted it out. Pretty obviously a one-year vet minimum deal. If you've heard of Demetric Felton, it's probably from his time with the Browns. He was a 2021 sixth-round pick for Cleveland. Spent the first 2 years on their roster. It's kind of like their number 3 back behind Nick Chubb and Kareem Hunt. Last year signed with the Bengals. Didn't make their 53-man roster, but did make their practice squad and was on the practice squad all of last season until the season ended in January. And now, he signs with the Bears. And this is an interesting one. And this comes, my initial thought was, what does this mean? But then Adam Hogue tweeted out that Travis Homer and Ian Wheeler got a little bit banged up yesterday. I couldn't remember if Matt Eberflus said that or not. After Saturday's practice, I was out of town. My wife's 30th birthday is coming up, so we did a little getaway, and I was keeping up, but it's possible I may have missed that. So if Wheeler and Homer are banged up, which Hogue mentioned, that would make a lot of sense because Demetric Felton's skill set is very similar to veteran Travis Homer and to undrafted free agent Ian Wheeler, who had gotten off to a pretty good start at training camp. Now, it's unclear to know the severity of their injuries, but even if they're just banged up, okay, bring a guy into camp and a guy that I think can actually play a little bit. He catches the ball well. He can play on special teams as a returner and as a gunner. Again, very similar to Homer and Wheeler. Their skill sets overlap, and so you add a running back to the mix. Is he a big threat to make the roster? That would surprise me, unless Homer and or Wheeler's injuries are serious. Now, maybe he'd have a leg up on a guy like Ian Wheeler, who is undrafted. This guy's been around, but this feels more like let's get this guy in here because we're going to have a couple of guys down for a little bit. Now, if something were to happen with Khalil Herbert, if they were to trade and move him to another team, maybe I could see him making the team. Whereas, DeAndre Swift is your RB1, Roschon's your 2, and maybe Felton makes the team as your number 3, number 4 back. So we'll see. Good competition. A capable player is not going to do much carrying the football. 8 carries, 20 yards in his career, but 20 catches, 189 yards, and 2 receiving touchdowns in his career. Like he is done some damage as a receiving back with the Cleveland Browns in 21 and in 22. Let me know, had you heard of Demetric Felton before today? Type Y for yes or type N for no. Give me your thoughts down in the comment section down below, or just let me know if you had or not. And if you have, let me know what you think of the signing because it's certainly it was an interesting one that caught my eye at first. When I found out they were signing a running back. Okay, so Felton's on board, and we'll see where that goes. I did want to hit on a couple of other things. You're probably wondering, did they cut somebody to sign Demetric Felton? The answer to that is actually no. The Bears received an international roster exemption for Tory Taylor, the Australian, the 4th-round pick, of course, the punter out of Iowa. There's been some confusion on Twitter X about what that means. One person initially said, that means they have an extra spot, essentially a 54-man roster instead of 53. That is not true. Instead of a 90-man offseason roster, that gives them 91, but they still have to trim down to 53. So it's not like this is some workaround where Tory Taylor is not going to count against the 53-man roster, but it does help you on July 28th when you need to sign a running back in a pinch like Demetric Felton. So technically right now the Bears have 91 players. Tory Taylor gets an international roster exemption until they trim down to 53. So, hey, that's cool. That gives you more flexibility on the back end of your 90, 91 in this case. But to be clear, this is not an extra spot on your 53-man roster. This is an off-season roster limit issue, so to speak. So, again, nothing to nothing to think that the Bears were able to pull some big fast one here when it comes to Tory Taylor. Now, I do think, kind of shifting back to this running back thing, it is kind of interesting as you look ahead to Thursday, right? The Bears have a football game on Thursday night in Canton, Ohio for the Hall of Fame game. If for some reason Wheeler and Homer can't go, a guy like Felton, it might need to eat up some snaps for you, right? Because you're not going to play DeAndre Swift much, if at all. Maybe he gets a drive. Khalil Herbert might play a little bit, but probably not a ton. Roschon, I would think, plays a decent amount, the second-year running back. But if Wheeler and Homer are out and unavailable, you might need Demetric Felton to give you some touches in the second half. I mean, that's definitely a possibility. So that could be part of the thinking here as well, just to help the Bears get through a preseason game at the running back position with Demetric Felton. And I do want to talk a little bit more about the Hall of Fame game because, I'm in the camp after a couple of padded practices where the offense wasn't great, especially on Saturday. Friday was more up and down, but Saturday definitely big advantage defense. I would play Caleb Williams and a lot of the starters on offense. Now, I probably wouldn't play Keenan Allen. I'd be okay sitting DJ Moore as well, but I definitely want Rome Odunze to play. And I think all of the offensive line should play if you're healthy. I don't think Darnell Wright has reached a status where you should sit him in the Hall of Fame game. I don't think Braxton Jones has reached that. If you want to sit Kevin Jenkins, given his injury history, he's been around the block for 3 years, okay, fine, sit Tevin. But this center thing is still up in flux. Nate Davis just went down with some sort of an injury, so now you've got Ryan Bates, Coleman Shelton splitting at center. Bates ended up playing some right guard at Saturday's practice. Like, I would play these guys, man. The offensive line, who's had a ton of false start, pre-snap penalty issues through two padded practices, you got to get these guys on the field together and start getting some real reps because, as much as we've praised Ryan Poles and the Bears for surrounding Caleb Williams with a lot of weaponry, it all starts up front, and these guys got to get out there and get those reps together. So Matt Eberflus said he would announce on Tuesday if the starters are going to play, if Caleb's going to play. I would play him. Even if it's just a drive or two, even if it's just from an operational standpoint, something Flus talks about a lot, to work out some of those kinks, breaking the huddle, pre-snap stuff, not jumping off sides, getting the snap, running through a couple of plays. Like, you don't have to hand out state secrets to the Houston Texans who you're going to play in week 2. Like, I get that, but you can hand the ball off a couple times, get Caleb Williams on a bootleg and just throw it out into the flat. Like, you can do pretty simple stuff to still at least get something out of it rather than to just, go through the motions with mostly backups that aren't going to make the team. So that's my stance on it. I don't know how the Bears feel about it, but let me know what you guys think. Would you play Caleb and at least some of the starters on Thursday? Because I would. I absolutely would do that, but we'll see if the Bears agree. My name is Harrison Graham. Thank you guys so much for tuning in here on a Sunday. We'll be back in the studio tomorrow with more Chicago Bears content, so be sure to subscribe and join us. Live at 4 o'clock Central, we'll probably have a video out in the morning as well, so be on the lookout for that. Until then, bear down.